The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. A female media executive was shot dead while driving home in General Santos City past noon yesterday. The police identified the victim as Yentes Quintoy, an executive office director and chief of staff of Brigada Group, which operates a local television station and a network of newspapers and radio stations in Mindanao. According to investigators, gunmen riding in tandem on a black motorcycle tailed Quintoy's car from the office and promptly struck as she reduced speed at a street corner. Authorities say Quintoy was taken to the St. Elizabeth Hospital, where she was declared dead on arrival. Brigada is offering a 1 million peso reward for information leading to the arrest of the gunman. The Health Department said that the new COVID-19 cases in Mindanao accounted for 25% of the nationwide tally last week. Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said that at this rate, Mindanao has already outpaced the National Capital Region in the total of COVID-19 infections last week. Vergeres attributes the surge to more infectious variants, increased mobility, lack of compliance with health protocols, and deficiencies in the region's COVID-19 response.
This week, we saw na tumaas po sa 6,691 ang ating 7-day moving average, daily average no, dito sa buong bansa. At pag tinignan ho natin, na outpace na po ng Mindanao ang National Capital Region. So nakikita ho natin, nagsishift po yung mga burden of cases sa ibang lugar. Aside from Mindanao, we are also seeing rise in cases in some parts of the Visayas region, also in some parts of the northern Luzon.
Meanwhile, businesses in Boracay are gearing up for the return of tourists from Metro Manila as they aim to recover losses due to the less visitors this summer season. Based on the data from the Malay Tourism Office, only 1,700 tourists went to Boracay last May, of which 23 visitors were from Metro Manila, while the rest came from Western Visayas. Now, as commercial flights resume, enterprises in the island are preparing for the return of tourists from NCR and its nearby provinces. Boracay locals also conducted a cleanup drive to make sure that the shores are rid of waste brought by Typhoon Dante. The US, UK, and other group of 7 or G7 members have reached a landmark tax deal targeting large tech companies and tax havens. According to Reuters, the change would have an impact on the world's leading tech companies, which have long succeeded in avoiding taxation in many areas of where they operate. And because of this, billions of dollars could flow into government coffers, which have been left cash-strapped due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, under the deal, members agreed to set a minimum 15% global corporate tax threshold, which they say will force companies to pay taxes in the countries where they generate their business. This reform, earlier proposed by European countries, gained momentum after U.S. President Joe Biden took office. And we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. NTF-ELCAC spokesperson Lorraine Badoy vows to have Makabayan bloc members booted out of the House of Representatives ahead of the 2022 elections. Let's get his insights on this matter. We have a Bayan Muna Party List representative, Mr. Carlos Zarate. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, Riza, and good morning to our televiewers.
Sir, we'd like to get your reaction on the latest pronouncement from NTF-ELCAC.
This is actually nothing new. Partosa Badoy is not saying nothing new. She kept on saying that they have all this evidence against us. They want us booted out, as if we did something wrong while we are in Congress. No, our record in the past 20 years, Risa, will speak for itself. We have been very active in the floor as well as in the committee levels, pushing for meaningful reforms in terms of legislation and even in the conduct of investigation in aid of legislation against corruption, against human rights violations. And I cannot, understand Partosa Badoy's time warp called era rhetorics. No, she claims they have evidence, and we were saying, bring this in the proper forum so that we can cross-examine, for example, your witnesses. No? Probably she did not take it lightly when she appears, for example, in committee hearings when we called her out, trying to peddle lies in the halls of Congress, trying to misrepresent a lot of facts. No, so again, we stand by our record as legislators in the past 20 years, and our colleagues in the House can attest to this. We may disagree in several issues, but we kept on working to push for meaningful reforms within the halls of Congress and even outside of Congress, Lisa.
So, Sir Carlos, why do you think that NTF-ELCAC wants Makabayan bloc to be, or Makabayan lawmakers out of Congress then?
Apparently, we are thorn under the of their plans. No, we kept, for example, these rhetorics and attacks against us intensified last year during the budget hearing when we questioned, for example, why in the midst of this severe crisis aggravated by this pandemic, allocate 10.4 billion to a task force, not even a line agency. No, we only allocated 2.5 billion for to procure our vaccines, but we allocated 19.1 billion to this task force, no, to be used for supposedly in their operations and red tagging operations, and they are allowed to distribute 20 million each for barangay. So we said then that this can be used for politicking, this can be used for, in fact, very vulnerable to graft and corruption. So during that time, they were so, so angry against the members of the Makabayan bloc when we exposed this so-called general pork barrel. No? And so we were proven right because when this budget are now being implemented, even the Senate are not questioning it. No? Why allocate this huge budget with in this NTF-ELCAC? And also, we are not, saying that only 6 of us can, she's claiming that the Makabayan bloc is out to topple the government. What can 6 of us do? In fact, for in most part, in major legislations, we were always outvoted. But at least we did our part. We engaged the majority members of the House in most legislations, including the anti-terror law, including the budget, including the taxes. So I think this is what is the main reason. No? Ang tingin nila, tinik ang Makabayan bloc for all these anti-people policies that we are trying to prevent and expose in and outside of the halls of Congress, Risa.
Mr. Zarate, since they've already expressed their intent, base po ba sa ating Constitution, kaya po ba? Is there really a way for NTF-ELCAC to be removed or to remove duly elected lawmakers in office?
If we are not above the law. No? We are governed by our election laws and other laws. No? And that's why we told them, if you have evidence against us, our records are very open. No? And we know for a fact, Risa, that they initiated several cases against us, not only now, but even in the past. No? In the prior to the 2019 election, they filed disqualification cases against us. But these were all thrown in the wastebasket, no? Because these are unfounded and in fact filed by spurious complainants, no? filing perjured statements before the Commission on Election. They also filed cases against us in the regular courts, in the prosecution services, but these are all also dismissed. No? So they are concocting a lot of things just to remove us from Congress. And we kept on saying we will face them because we know we are on the side of the truth, no? And we are on the side of our people. We abide by the rules and regulations pertaining to us being members of Congress and representing party list groups. No? So, but on the other hand, this cannot stop us, no, from questioning anti-people policies, no, questioning this huge budget allocated to this task force in the midst of this pandemic, no? Ang naghihirap ng ating mamamayan, milyon-milyon ng ating mamamayan na nahihirapan ngayon, but this task force is capable of dispensing 20 million per barangay, no? And look around you. There are already tarpaulin promoting some personalities of this task force who are apparently planning to run for election in 2022. So there goes the budget that we allocated to NTF-ELCAC.
Sir, you mentioned budget. NTF-ELCAC said that they will use all the resources to remove you and other Makabayan lawmakers from your post. In your opinion, sir, can they lawfully use their funds this way?
That invites anti-graft and corruption charges against them, no? Because they apparently are the Makabayan bloc responsible for the poverty that is now widespread in our country? Responsible why there are rebellion in our country? No, no. So we have been saying for the longest time, Risa, this more than 5 decades armed rebellion in our country cannot be solved by junketing factotums like Badoy Partosa and hurt the likes of her, no? Going to Europe, going to America, going to Oceania. This can only be used when, for example, a sincere peace process is being initiated both by the government and the rebel movement. No? We have been pushing for the peace talks to resume, no? Because we believe there is an opportunity for a political settlement when we address the root causes of these more than 50 decades armed conflict. No? So they were saying they will use all the resources against Makabayan bloc. What for? No? There are only 6 of us. And again, I was saying, that 19 billion that allocated to them, mas mabuti pang gagamitin yan to give our people the much needed ayuda and not on red tagging, not on fake surrenderies, not on tarpaulins announcing the possible run for election by these personalities associated with the NTF-ELCAC. No? So I think people now realize who are the real problems in our country. Not us, the Makabayan bloc. No? We have been. Is it against the interest of our people, Risa, for example, when we push successfully for being put into law a free tertiary education, for example. And just recently, we pushed for an additional pension to our elderly people. Is that toppling down the government? It is all, we are only helping via legislation our people who are now suffering because of this severe crisis aggravated by this pandemic. No? So siguro talaga makikita na ng mga tao kung sino yung nagwawalda sa pera ng mamamayan at hindi kami yon sa Makabayan bloc, Lisa.
Sir, moving forward, dahil nga po paparating na po ang 2022 elections, according po to Ms. Badoy, she mentioned that they have filed several cases like what you know against the Makabayan bloc and COMELEC to disqualify po your members in the upcoming elections. We'd like to know if you have knowledge on this and ano po ang inyong pong plano in response to their move.
As it is now, even as we speak now, we know for the fact that there is still one pending case. No, they filed by NTF-ELCAC against the Gabriela Women's Party. No? Supposedly because Gabriela Women's Party is advocating violence and they are funded by foreign entities. These are all hogwash. These are all lies peddled by NTF-ELCAC. No, if there is if there is violence that being fought again, being advocated against by Gabriela Women's Party, these are violence against women and children, no? Against red tagging. That's I think the only pending case. I don't know if they still intend to file more cases, but we are ready to face this in the proper forum. No? Sabi nga namin sa kanila, huwag niyong dalhin dyan sa puro satsat at propaganda lang. No? Dalhin niyo sa proper forum yan because there are processes, and these processes, sinusunod namin ito. And in the past, as I've mentioned Risa earlier, they filed several cases against us just to disqualify us. But all of these were dismissed, no? Thrown in the wastebasket. In fact, we filed a counter charge against one of those agents of them, no, who filed cases against us. And the court awarded Bayan Muna as civil damages, because of the trumped-up and false charges they leveled against our party.
Sir, since you mentioned due process, are you planning to take legal actions against Ms. Badoy for saying, and I quote, the Makabayan bloc are made of high-ranking members of the CPP, NPA, NDF that are out to destroy the government?
It is Badoy Partosa who is destroying the meaning of good governance, Risa, and certainly all legal processes, all legal remedies available to us, we will certainly entertain this, no, to make them accountable and responsible for these accusations leveled against us, this red baiting, red labeling, red tagging. And we have been condemning this in the strongest possible terms in the past. No? In fact, we filed a bill as a counterpart bill in the Senate to criminalize red tagging. Because, Risa, red tagging is not just simple labeling. This is very dangerous. It resulted to assassination of several of our colleagues. Death, no? Not only trump-up charges, worse. They have been killed after they were red tagged and red labeled.
Well, we thank you, sir, for sharing your time and your insights with us. That's Bayan Muna Party List Representative, Mr. Carlos Zarate.
Thank you, Risa. Stay safe.
And those are our top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.